Hello, 7th grade mathematicians. Today we're going to learn about solving story problems, and we're going to be using inequalities. Alright, so we're going to apply everything we've learned in our unit on inequalities to actually solve some story problems. Alright, so first let's review the steps for solving story problems. So first, obviously, you have to read the problem, okay? And that's critical. You have to read it maybe 3 times. Read it until you understand. Number 2, identify the question. Okay, now that's going to be something that you're going to have to write down. When you identify the question, it's fairly simple. Just find the question mark. And that's how you're going to define your variable. So once you know the question, that will be what your variable stands for. So that's something you're going to have to write down. Alright, number 3, find the important information. That kind of goes along with reading it. Make sure you read and understand, and you know what's important and what you need to use to figure out the answer. Number 4, write an inequality. Alright, we're using inequalities now. So that's when you're going to translate the problem into math code. So you're going to translate into math code, so you're going to have to write that down. And we're using inequalities now. So inequalities are symbols like is less than, is greater than, is less than or equal to, is greater than or equal to, and even the symbol for not equal to. Alright, step 5. You have to solve the inequality. That's when you're going to show all the steps. So show your work. And finally, you have to answer the question, and that will involve a sentence and units of measure. Alright, so here we go. Let's try number 1. Mrs. Corey wants to order DVDs from the internet. Each DVD costs $15.99, and shipping for the entire order is $9.99. Mrs. Corey only has $100 to spend. How many DVDs can Mrs. Corey order without exceeding your $100 limit? Okay, I read it. I pretty much understand it. I might have to read it again. I need to find the question. Here's the question mark. So where does that start? Right here. How many DVDs? How many DVDs? So I'm going to use D. D stands for the number of DVDs. Okay, that is not a hashtag. That's not a hashtag. That's a number. Number of DVDs. Okay, so there's my variable. Number of DVDs. Now let's translate. What happened to Mrs. Corey? She wanted to buy DVDs. They're $15.99 each. Each DVD is $15.99. So I'm going to have to go $15.99. Not just once. Not twice. Maybe 3, 4. I don't know how many times. Since I don't know how many times, I'm going to multiply it by D. $15.99 each DVD. That's not all she had to pay for. There was more. So I put plus. She had to pay for shipping. Now the shipping is for the entire order. So she just pays the shipping once. She doesn't pay $9.99 to ship every DVD. She just pays $9.99 for the whole shipment. So that's just a one-time deal, so you don't multiply. Now, she can't go over $100. She can only spend up to $100. So what she spends on the DVDs and the shipping has to stay less than or equal to $100. She cannot go over her $100 limit. Okay, so that's my inequality right there. That's translating the sentences, the story, into math code. Now I simplify and solve. Subtract $9.99 from both sides. and that leaves me with 1599D is less than or equal to $90.01. And then divide by 1599. And when you divide by 1599, you get a decimal. So you get D is less than or equal to, and I'm going to round the decimal, approximately 5.63. Okay, so what did D stand for? D stood for the number of DVDs. So the number of DVDs has to be less than or equal to 5.63. So that means Mrs. Corey cannot buy more than this. She has to buy 5.63 or less. Well, is she going to buy 0.63 of a DVD? I don't think so. So my answer is she can buy no more than 5 DVDs. She can buy, let's say 5 or less. So to stay under her $100 limit, she can only buy, at the most, 5 DVDs. No more than that. Alright, let's try the next one. You are collecting sponsors for a 10-mile walk. So far, you have collected $230 in donations. How much must the last sponsor pledge per mile to reach or exceed your goal? Alright, let's find the question. There's the question mark. How much must the last sponsor pledge per mile? How much must the last sponsor pledge per mile? Let's use the letter P. And that's going to stand for the last sponsor's pledge. Last sponsor's pledge per mile. And I found that because I found the question mark. Alright, so that's defining my variable. And that has to be done first. Now translate, write your inequality. Translate what happened. So it says here, let's see, you're trying to get some money. So far, you collected $230. So that sounds like the beginning. So that's what you have right now, $230. Now apparently someone's going to pledge a little bit more, so you add. And the last sponsor is going to pledge per mile. Now it was a 10-mile walk. So whatever they pledge, like if they pledge 50 cents per mile, you're going to go 50 cents times 10. If they pledge $1 per mile, you'll go $1 times 10. If they pledge $5 per mile, it's 5 times 10. So I don't know what they're pledging per mile, but I know it's going to be multiplied by 10 because I'm walking 10 miles. So the pledge times 10 miles. Pledge per mile times 10. And I'm trying to reach a goal, or even I'm actually trying to reach my goal of 300, and it's okay if I go over it. So this time it's going to be is greater than or equal to 300, because I want to try to raise at least $300. So that's my inequality. Now let's figure it out. So solve. Subtract 230. This part we should be so good at by now. Subtract 230. You're left with 10p is greater than or equal to 70. Divide by 10 on both sides. P is greater than or equal to 7. Okay, so what did P stand for? The last sponsor's pledge. So what can the sponsor pledge per mile? Well, it says the sponsor can pledge more than, greater than, or equal to 7. So the sponsor can pledge at least $7 per mile. So the sponsor needs to pledge at least, I forgot the word at least. So let's fix that. The sponsor needs to pledge at least $7 per mile. Sponsor needs to pledge $7 or more per mile. So I need at least $7 from that last sponsor to reach my goal. And it's okay if he gives me more. Then I'll go over my goal. Alright, let's stop here for a minute and we'll continue on to the back side.